boxing. Riyadh delivered again this weekend. talkSPORT's live coverage of Usyk beating Fury again. Former three-weight champ Duke McKenzie is with us live on the show. Duke, how are you getting on?
Hello, champ. Really well, thanks. You?
Yeah, great to have you on. Appreciate it. First of all, about the scoring and about the result, were you totally at one with it? Did you agree with it?
Totally agreed with it. I had it maybe 3 rounds to Usyk. Fury for me didn't deliver because all the pre-fight hype that he gave and everything that he said that he was going to do, he didn't do it, or he couldn't do it, or he couldn't do it. Either Usyk didn't allow him to do it because of his lateral movement. He never stopped moving throughout the whole of the fight, and it's hard to pin down a southpaw, a right-handed fighter, when they're continuously moving. However, as you know, it's not the first time they've fought. They've done 24 rounds together now, so you know, all the talk was from Fury was how he worked him out and how he was going to bully him and how he was going to put it on him and make him really feel the heat and under pressure and how he was going to rip the championship off of Usyk. Fury, to me, didn't go into this fight with a challenger's frame of mind. He went into this fight thinking he was the champion. Now, when you're challenging for a world title, you've got to go in with a challenger's mentality. You know, maybe his ego wouldn't let him. I don't know. But all I do know is he boxed like he was a champion and the fight just slipped away from him. Because when in the rounds where he should have gone after Usyk and really put it on him and really try to hurt him, particularly in the later part of the fight, we never saw that. And boxers know when you're fighting for a world title, you've got to be seen to be taking the championship. You've got a gun, you've got to rip it off the other guy's back and you've got to really put it on him. But we never saw that.
No. Duke, I'm struck by your insistence at the start of that you felt he'd won it by 3 rounds because the whole tone of the night was there was incredulity really that Usyk had been handed the fight by the judges. So when you were watching on the night, were you fascinated by that?
No, not at all. I mean, you know, there's been some bad decisions in boxing, you know, over the years, and I'm sure you're well aware of, you know, 1 or 2 fights you may have seen where there's bad decisions. You know, maybe like the Johnny Fisher fight against the guy that he
Dave Allen, yeah.
Dave Allen, right? That was a diabolical decision.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the Fury fight. And the decision was right. There was only one winner in that fight, and that was Oleksandr Usyk, because he boxed a much more intelligent fight. He won this fight. You know, Fury was a lot better in the first fight than he was in this fight. And like I say, everything he said he was going to do, he didn't do. I don't really know why. I'm not Tyson Fury. Only he can tell you that. Now, when you start, I think he's living in denial. After the fight, he's shouting around and he's screaming, you know, I won the fight. I thought I was 3 rounds up and all this kind of business. Even if you think you're 3 rounds up going into the last round, you know, you're going to step on the gas. You're going to put in a lot of urgency to cement that, not only to yourself, but to the judges. However, you've got 3 independent judges. They each sit from each different side of that ring, and they each see a completely different fight. I don't know if you've ever sat actually ringside at a fight before, and you've witnessed that for yourself, but I can guarantee if you sit at a fight and you watch it from one side of the ring, then you move to the other side, you see a completely different fight. All 3 judges saw the same fight. All 3 judges came out with the same conclusion. It wasn't a majority decision or a split decision like the first fight. This was a unanimous decision. So there's no argument for, oh, you know, it was a close fight, or that fight could never have been, you know, rigged or close, and nobody's been bought off. I guarantee you that. This is the World Heavyweight Championship fight that we're talking about. The world and his brother are watching this fight. So if there's going to be any sort of skullduggery done, then there's going to be a world of trouble for whoever was involved in it. But
Agreed.
That's really not the case.
So where does this leave Tyson Fury and his legacy? Because we've heard comments in the past. So Frank Warren came out with this quote saying Tyson Fury is the closest thing we've had to Muhammad Ali in the heavyweight division. Bob Arum saying Fury's the biggest personality we've had in boxing since Ali. Listen, he's been a world champion. You can't deny what he's done in the game, but where do you think it leaves his legacy now?
Well, let's put it this way. Tyson Fury, he's not It depends on which way you want to look at it. Listen, I made a few notes of the sort of fighters that Muhammad Ali fought in his career, right? Ali had Cooper, Chevalier, Foster, Foreman, Shaver, Frasers, Lyle, Norton, Patterson, Liston, to name just a few of the fighters that Muhammad Ali fought in his career. You know, Larry Holmes defended the world heavyweight title 14 times. He's a modern day great. The Klitschko's, they defended 11 times. Joe Louis defended 26 times. Right, so when you look at the pantheon of fighters that have become before Fury, and the legacy they've actually put on in boxing, the fights that they've had in boxing, and not all of these guys are going to be called legends. You got your modern day great, and then you got your all time great. Muhammad Ali's an all time great. I don't think for 1 minute Tyson Fury is an all time great. He's had 2 defenses in his career, 2 against. He went over and he had the Klitschko fights, and then he had the Wilder fights. That doesn't make you a great fighter. I'm not saying this. I'm not taking nothing away from Tyson Fury, because ultimately Tyson Fury's been world champion, and it doesn't get any better than that. The fact that he hasn't maintained or had these sort of dance partners to fight against, that's not his fault. But he's defended the world heavyweight title, only a handful of times. And some of the guys I've just listed, we're talking about 11 times, 22 times, 26 times, 14 times. Larry Holmes, 14 times. Larry Holmes probably had, out of this era of all of these fighters I've just mentioned, and that includes Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes probably had the hardest road in. When you think of some of the fighters that he beat, when he first won the world title and when he defended the world title, some of the caliber of boxers that he boxed were just off this Richter scale.
Duke, can I ask you something? Just going back to the actual fight, and I'm always fascinated when I'm watching the boxing on whether, depending on the experience of the boxer, how much they listen to the corner and how important that is, or whether they go their own way,
Yeah.
I felt, and I think most people felt, who they were interviewing when I was watching it, were thinking it's tight or Usyk might be just ahead. Why? And he's got an experienced corner, and there wasn't all the different voices in there this time. Why weren't they saying to him, "You're going to have to do a bit more. You're going to have to put your foot on the gas"?
They should have been screaming at him. If I've been down in world title fights myself, because I've been a world champion, and I get back to my corner. I mean, obviously, different strokes for different folks. What might work for Tyson Fury, calm approach, that might not work for myself or any other boxer. Everybody is different. However, Tyson Fury reminds me, he kind of, if you're going to get through to him, you can't whisper to him. You got to scream and read the riot act to him. If he thought in his own mind, you know what, I'm 3 rounds up. If I'm in a world title fight and I'm saying to myself, I'm 3 rounds up, the last thing I'm going to say to myself, I'm going to take my foot off the gas. The first thing I'm going to say to myself is, I've got 1 more round to go, and I need to cement this victory. I need to go out there and actually nail this one down, so there's no excuse. It's not even close. And in that last round, which Tyson Fury may or may not have won, but you didn't see that urgency from him. All the talk about, I'm going to put on this extra weight, I'm going to be bigger, I'm going to be better, I'm going to be fitter, stronger. He may have been marginally fitter, but he couldn't fight at a hard pace because he was carrying that extra weight.
Is it also as well? And I know they had the extra weight, but are we deviating a little bit from the incredible shape that Usyk's in every time he fights?
Oleksandr Usyk is a modern day great.
Yeah.
As I said before, he's a modern day great fighter. He's beaten everybody that's in the heavyweight division. That actually means something to the heavyweight division. Daniel Dubois, Joshua, Fury. Those 3 guys.
Joshua and Fury twice.
Yeah, he's beaten those guys twice. So, he's beaten those guys twice. And the likelihood is, if he fights Daniel Dubois again, the likelihood is he would probably, not definitely, but probably beat Dubois again. He is so majestic in the way that he fights. I want to put all my cards on the table. Oleksandr Usyk is not a genuine heavyweight. He's talking about dropping back down to cruiserweight and possibly challenging for the cruiserweight championship there. He's a blown-up heavyweight. He's come up from cruiserweight into the heavyweight divisions because his skill set is far superior to any of the heavyweights that are out there. Right now, I don't know who beats Oleksandr Usyk because he makes all of the heavyweights look ordinary just by having a better skill set and a bigger engine. The guy's got such a great engine. And like I say, the way that he carries himself both inside and outside of the ring is the way you would expect the world heavyweight champion to carry themselves. You know, he's very, very professional in everything that he does. Like I say, both inside and outside of the ring.
Do you think that now ends this whole thing, and that Usyk shouldn't be thinking about? Obviously, there's talk about Dubois, but maybe Usyk has also talked to himself about, well, that might even be enough for me. What do you think the future is for him? And do you now think, second question, that Fury has to just almost content himself with a fight against Joshua and move on now from the whole Usyk thing?
Yeah, listen, there won't be a demand, only from the Tyson Fury's camp, there'll be a demand for a third fight. But when you've been beaten not once but twice by the same person, that tells you one thing. It tells you the fights weren't even close, not in my book. There was an outright winner. That tells you one thing. The guy's got your number. Mm. He didn't beat him once. He beat him the first time on a majority decision. He beat him the second time on a unanimous decision. So there's not going to be the cry out now for a third meeting. What for? I've beaten you twice. It doesn't hold any. He won't cut anything with Usyk. The Joshua fight against Tyson Fury is the only fight in world boxing now that the world and his brother want to see. It doesn't matter if these guys are both still past their best. They are still two huge names in the sport of heavyweight boxing. Tyson Fury is number one, no doubt, because he's beaten the number two and the number three. If the number two and number three want to fight, then it'll be for, I don't know, a 10-round fight. Or let's just say Usyk decides to retire and give up the belts, which he won't right now because there's another payday out there for him against another one of these, you know, could be Daniel Dubois. I don't know.
He said he would. He said he'd fight.
Yeah, Daniel Dubois will jump at the chance to fight Usyk because right now Daniel Dubois is the only heavyweight on the planet that could even come anywhere near close. I'm not saying he beats Usyk, but he could run into the wire because Daniel Dubois is a completely different animal to the guy that lost to Usyk when he did.
Duke, great to have you on. Really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Cheers, Duke.
Brilliant stuff from Duke McKenzie.
Speaks well, doesn't he?
Yeah, very, very well. And full of opinions and backs them up as well. Love it. The Dubois in the ring thing after the fight was a bit mad, wasn't it?
I felt for him.
Cool.
I genuinely felt for him because I don't think he wanted to do it. I think he was
smiling, wasn't he? It was all a bit weird.
It was uncomfortable for him. I know, and I get it. It sells the next one, but he quickly backed off because he didn't feel comfortable.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.